What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Connected to the Webb podcast, where I interview local people from Harford County, Baltimore, and Cecil County, Maryland. We learn about them, their families, and their businesses, and we just have some fun, man. So I got a buddy of mine today. It's actually the first guest that I'm having from my sports network, which if anybody you watching has kids, Harford County is a huge sporting community, and lacrosse and football are kind of our passions, and our boys play those sports, so we're having some fun today. So I've got Alan Debnam here. We're going to have some fun. It's your first podcast, right?
First time doing one.
Okay, so if you talk, you're automatically good.
Right.
Not talking is the only thing you can do. So Alan and I met, I guess, a couple years ago through football and through families, and we really kind of like started just chatting it up with our sons playing lacrosse with Forest Hill Wolfpack, and it's been a lot of fun. Lacrosse is different for me. Like I told a buddy of mine, I was that football guy the first year in lacrosse where I'm just watching, trying to like soak it in. Never played in high school. Baseball, football for me. And I saw a yellow flag hit the ground, and I'm like, hey. And some guy put his hand on my shoulder. Was like, you a football guy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, man, we don't stop for defense. Yeah. I'm like, and I'm too loud. There's no way I can take it back. You know that. Yeah. So it was kind of funny. But lacrosse is crazy, man. Like as a parent, you get in, it's crazy, and then you're gone. It's done.
Yep.
Like sometimes football lingers, and youth baseball is.
No, lacrosse is fat. I mean, fastest game on two feet.
Yeah, and I heard that, and I'm like, what does that mean? And as a dad, it's great though. Yeah. And we go to a couple counties down on the weekends where some of the leagues our kids are in, and it's like, it's far away, but because you're in and out, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're not here to talk about youth sports and lacrosse. We're talking about you and your business. So you have a day job. And you had an idea to kind of do a business or side hustle, I guess is the fun phrase. So why don't you tell us about your family as much as you want or you're willing to. You don't have to name them by name. And then kind of, where it got connected to. Maybe it'd be cool, this idea in my head to rock with it.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in Harford County now for going on 14 years. And
you're a transplant.
Yeah, I am. But I was thinking about this actually the other day. I think I've probably lived here longer than almost as
14 is a long time.
It's about half of where I've lived. The longest of anywhere else.
Where was before?
So I lived in Kent County.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yep. So that's where I grew up, and then after college and things like that, that's how I got here. Because of my wife, who I met in college, who was from Harvard County.
Awesome.
Yep. And
she's local grown.
So she is local. Yeah. She is born and raised.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we have two kids.
Awesome.
6 and 9, and my 9-year-old. Our boys play together.
He's a cool kid, man. Your kid's cool. I can't say that to everybody. I just won't bring it up. But your kid's cool, man. It's neat.
Thank you.
His personality's cool.
Yeah, he's got a very we're lucky. He's got a good diverse group of friends, and just into so many, and just the same way with Jack, just into so many different things. So.
You don't realize if you have a good kid until they're around other kids.
Yeah.
And then you're like, there's a difference.
Right. Yeah.
The way they talk to their parents and the way that they interact with other kids, what things come out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Because our kids are, the boys, 8, 9, 10 years old, they're learning things they probably shouldn't learn yet. But yeah, that's how I know a kid. A kid's a good kid, good parents, and it's not a mistake, man. If it's a good kid, there's a good parenting involved. But yeah, you guys got some good kids, and your daughter's super cute. She's cool.
She's a handful.
Does she run the roost?
She does.
Yeah,
she tries.
So does mine.
She definitely does.
So you're going to work every day, providing for the family,
right.
And doing what we're all trying to do. Do you want to share what you do for your day job?
So my wife and I own a company that also has MADBAR in the name. It's called MADBAR Transportation.
Okay.
So that's a school bus company. So we provide school bus transportation for Harford County Public Schools. We're
awesome.
Contracted. We have about 24 buses.
Is there any way if I see a cheese bus that I know was one of yours?
It does. Yeah. So if any of the contractor service buses in the county have the name of the contractor written on the bus on both sides, the bottom.
So we'll see MADBAR.
Yep.
Is it just text or is it a logo?
It's just text.
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
We can't have a logo. We have a logo, but not on.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Public.
Yeah. So we started Tiffany's family. My wife, her family has been in that business for generations, many, many years, and that's kind of how we got started in it. We started with one bus, and it was kind of a part-time thing for both of us, and then it grew where at both times, both of us, it was our full-time job, and then for the last 3 years, it's been both of our full-time jobs. And then cool. also about 2 years ago is when I started the other company, which we'll get into. But yeah, but the MADBAR, the name came from actually when we got together, we both had a dog. One of the dogs' name was Mad, and the other's name was Barley.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. We could
MADBAR.
MADBAR.
I love.
So we just kept it.
I love it.
Yeah, and kept it again.
I love what motivates people to create those names. You know what I mean? It's super cool to have that difference.
I mean, we just couldn't come up with anything, and we love the dogs, and that's what we did. We don't both 2 years ago the one passed away.
Oh, that sucks.
They both are now, but up till 2 years ago, we had one of them.
Well, it's kind of cool to keep those names then, because the kids know.
Yeah. And the kids remember the dogs. And so it's cool.
Well, that's super cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the name obviously already there. You have this busing company. You guys are doing great. And a little idea grew in your head. So connect me to that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, MADBAR Outdoors, we'll get into, what it is, but it basically, we focus on everything turf related. So providing high-end turf to residential, commercial, or community sports fields, both for maintenance, construction, installation. But where that came from was sort of, I guess, a passion that started for me, I guess probably back in like middle school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Where I was just like tasked at that point with mowing the grass.
I've mowed some grass in my time.
For sure. Yeah. So, but then I was like, all right, well, I want to make the grass look better. And I started like, trying different things on our own grass. And at one point I had like a little one-hole golf course that I used to cut lower with a push mower.
Shut up.
And just crazy shit.
Inside your land. And then you kind of made a little course. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's neat.
So, so this was in Kent County. We had like 2 acres then.
Okay.
So I had room to play and do things like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess it started there. And then through high school, I had like a lawn mowing business. I had a couple of friends that like worked for me. And because there was a community like back where I lived, where there's like 60 like high-end residential homes that were kind of like along the Chesapeake Bay. So I probably at one point was mowing like 15, 20 yards back in there.
Oh, man.
These are, fairly large yards. So it was like every afternoon after school kind of thing. So at that company, but then I realized I didn't want to like mow grass for the rest of my life. So
not your passion.
Yeah. So I went to college, I went to Virginia Tech, and
You're a Hokie?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. I visited there in college at a brother fraternity chapter,
nice.
And it's its own little world down there, man. What's the city? Is it Blacksburg?
Blacksburg.
Yeah, Blacksburg. Yeah. That is its own little community.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Everything lives and dies by the Hokie.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, anywhere in Virginia, it's like you tell anyone that you went to Virginia, it's like anywhere, it's go Hokies. But
that's great.
Yeah, so I went there and ended up like changing majors a couple times anyway. But I did end up getting a degree in landscape and turf management.
Okay.
So that's kind of what my degree was in. But then after college, I did nothing with that. Even before
like most of us.
Yeah, I kind of had a sales career.
Okay.
I was a territory sales manager in the construction, ag, landscape sectors.
Pretty good resume thing to help you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
at the time, might not have
learning
known that,
the sales techniques and especially like I did like some high end sales of construction equipment at one point, and so just learning the sales like solution sales process,
the cycle,
things like that, and understanding like how those kind of customers buy. I think that's been helpful. I mean, but the travel, like once we started having kids, the traveling, that's when I kind of got out of that industry, and then we built the bus company at that point.
So starting a business is not easy. I mean, we talked about one of my other guests who gets involved in helping the beginning of the process, and failure rate's super high.
Yep.
But you and your wife did start a bus company business, which I know you scaled it properly, and you had the advisement of her family business, but that's still tough.
Yeah.
And then you decided to do it a second time. So you're such a glutton for punishment. You want to do it twice.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I am, but I realized that I wanted to do something that I really was passionate about, and could have a little bit more, allow me to have a little bit more creativity, and not the other business is very structured as far as
linear.
Kind of in a contract. There's not a lot of a huge, it is what it is, but it's been a great thing for us. But I just wanted to diversify a little bit and take something that I've been passionate about for a long time and create a business out of that. So that's where about 2-3 years ago, this started as well.
That was my first question is when.
Yep.
So, but a lot of Americans have really cool ideas. And
Right.
whether you're sharing it with a buddy over a beer
Right.
or a family member at a holiday event, Thanksgiving, whatever, that action plan sometimes never happens. And some of the
Right.
best ideas never get put into place. What inside of you kind of clicked that said, you know what, I've got this background. I learned some things in the corporate sale market. I've got this degree from an amazing
Right.
university. Maybe I should take this and kind of put it into that space. Was there a conversation that clicked, or was it your wife saying, hey, you have some really good ideas? You know, like what made you say, it's time? Because
Yes, I think it was a combination of so many things, but I've also, along with the passion for the landscape, especially the turf side of landscaping, and
right.
providing good grass, which we can get into a little bit. But I also have had a passion for the equipment. So I've also started to like, and I've always had a passion just for equipment and moving equipment, earth moving equipment,
I
stuff
mean,
like that.
as a little boy, like
Yeah,
we kind of like the
I
construction
grew up
things, and
I grew up on a farm, so we had,
it was there.
always was using equipment, more ag equipment, but I've always liked like construction equipment and dirt moving equipment, stuff like that. So like I've slowly started to build my own arsenal of equipment over the years, and
Arsenal, good word.
so, and I also built a shop at my house.
Okay.
So I've sort of kind of done this unconventionally, but I've kind of put together all these pieces to then build this business. And that's just kind of been my plan for probably like really 5 years. And that all sort of happened during COVID.
The C word always comes into it, man. But it's cool that
Yeah.
you kind of had that vision and then knew there was some, I guess you can call it prerequisites, right?
Yep.
If you're taking a college
Yeah.
course, that you had to kind of lay down a foundation before you kind of brought that to it.
Right.
So what's the end game? Like, do you want to have the kids run it one day? Or let's say you've got it ready, this beautiful, booming business, God willing, it supports your family. And Reed's like, Dad, I love you, but I'm trying to go be an air pilot. Or I'm going to join the military. I'm not going to do this, right? So then what do? Do you have a plan in play for that?
Yeah. I mean, so we'll get into a little bit about like where even my vision for the company in the short term and long term. But
Okay.
One of the things that I do when I really build the company is sort of the sports turf management, which Reed is very involved in.
Good.
Or likes the idea of. I mean, we want to build like a practice lacrosse field at the house at some point. But
Awesome.
so I could see like possibly down the road, like I would love to see it be something that one of them, if that side grew and they had interest in it,
Yeah.
I'd love to build this to a business that they could, if either one of them had interest, could take over.
That's cool.
But yeah, or that I could, however, transition out at that point.
I think it's so cool you have a plan B for that, and not like failure plan B. We're talking about success plan B.
Right.
There's a little convenience store at the corner over here, Jay's, but it used to be Wilson's Farm Market.
Yep.
And I had talked to that family. I was thinking of, not me, but like my neighbors were thinking about buying it when they were going to sell it, do some kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Counting out.
Yeah, I
little
remember
drama
when it was
with
for
it.
sale.
Yeah. But we met the family, talked to them, and they actually said that they had a non-blood relative, but like a member of their family that had always said they wanted to do it, and they went to college, specifically took track courses to be able to run a business
Right.
as huge as an ag business.
Right.
Popped out of college and had this amazing idea, started his own business and left. And they groomed him for 20 years.
Wow.
They didn't have a plan. So they were like, well, it's time to just start jettisoning things at this point. Because you'd have a lot of equipment, a lot of materials, a lot of goods you've got, not to mention the property, the land, the structures. Anyway, they were kind of in a tizzy. So I kind of thought about that. So they did not have a plan B. So it's super cool that you kind of do already. And whatever kind of the bob and weave happens, you're ready for it. That's pretty, that's not normal, man.
And I've kind of worked, along the same track for the past probably year and a half. I've worked with a business coach that's helped me like really structure a lot of this stuff to, like, so I can scale and all that. And it's just nice to have a plan. And
I got to ask you about that because I've had a business coach for 9 years.
Okay.
And some people are like, why would you waste that money?
No.
And they have no idea how powerful it can be.
100%.
I'm not going to ask you how much it is, but would you say that every penny you've spent has been worth it?
I think so.
I think so too.
I do. Yeah. And especially, in fact, what got me started with this guy was his podcast.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He has a podcast that's like it's kind of industry niche related in the skid steer excavation industry. But that's kind of how I got introduced to this guy.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And I guess sometimes as men, like we don't want help. And we have this like I can do it mentality, like DIY. But when it comes to business owners, so many people have these amazing ideas. They start the business. They, God willing, they have the capital to go. And then they're so good at what they do, but they're not good at running the business.
Right.
And just saying to yourself, I'd like to get a little bit of guidance.
Yep.
I mean, that's a awesome thing as a business owner that you
Sure.
welcomed that in.
Yeah.
Because millions of American businesses either can't or won't, or they haven't been exposed to it, have that idea, and I think it's crucial. So
Yep.
that alone means you've got a really solid foundation as you work through. I can tell you right now that that's going to put you percent wise so closer to a success than a failure.
Right. I sure hope.
Yeah.
And but yes, his coaching's been really helpful in both businesses, really.
All right, so let's kind of dig in a little bit on talking about the business, what it does, where it serves,
Yep.
and kind of learn a little bit about that.
Sure.
And kind of teach me kind of how it works. Okay.
Yep. Sure.
So just kind of tell me what your business is doing every day when it's functioning. How does it work? What does it do? Who does it serve? Kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. So MADBAR Outdoors, the goal, what we do is, to put it really simply, we elevate and enhance turf. Okay, so that could be for
Synthetic turf or live?
natural
Okay.
grass.
I'm
Grass
glad you said, because when I heard turf, I thought AstroTurf.
Yeah, so turf. I say turf,
Layperson.
lawn. So it's just turf, lawn, grass gets all interchanged, but turf grass is technically the term, but but yes, everything we do is, just to clarify, is on true grass,
natural,
turf.
Not synthetic. Got
Nothing synthetic. Not at this time. Not saying that we wouldn't be at some point doing something with that.
Well, I think it's cool that you're saying that, because even as we're communicating, when you said that word turf, as a layperson to your business, I thought, and when you laced in sports, my brain took it to like Tucker Field, where it was like the
so
AstroTurf,
not
right?
so I have and we can get into that, but I mean, so something like renovating that practice field,
the bottom
something I would love to do. Actually, so get me in contact with somebody.
It needs it. Yeah.
No, it needs some help.
So any natural grass surface that has some sort of function, needs to be maintained, is something that you would want to be interested in communicating about.
So whether that's someone that's looking for a seasonal maintenance plan to have that, they say, okay, we want good grass. They understand that to have good grass needs proper maintenance. Part of that proper maintenance is fertilization, weed control, maintaining the health of the grass, not just mowing it. That's something that we don't do, is mowing. But so it's a lot, everything but mowing related to grass.
Okay.
And so that could be a high-end residential property. That could be someone's yard that's got nothing but weeds that wants good grass. So a lot of times we'll get calls from someone that wants that's why they call us, because they want good grass. So it could be they have a mountain in the backyard and they want a soccer field. It could be that they just they have. I mean, that was actually a case this fall where someone.
So you're demoing land,
correct,
to create the space they want.
Correct.
And then when that demoing happens, there's a huge spot where it needs treatment, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
So and then another part of the business is the seasonal maintenance programs, as I was saying. So it could be anything from installation to maintenance to what we also call like renovating the turf. So we're not completely installing a new yard, but we might just come in and renovate through a process of aerating, overseeding something.
I was going to ask you about aerating, because I've seen little things that come out of the yards and stuff.
Yeah.
So anybody that's listening that has a backyard where the sun just seems to be baking it, must be a lot of clay in the ground or something like that. Yeah. I'm sure the soil sample is going to tell you a lot of what you have to do, right? You're going to come in and come up with a plan about that person's yard to get the grass they want. Yeah. And how long does it take in the growth cycle of you attacking the soil and the ground and maintaining it to get that look somebody wants?
So that could be, it's going to be a case by case scenario.
Got it.
But typically we can do a popular time to do something like that, where you're trying to increase the amount of good grass. That's the whole point of the aerating and overseeding. But we do a lot of that in the fall. But yeah, you can expect to see results in as little as a month if you get proper rain and things like that. Yeah,
that's great.
I mean, you can really get. I can show you some pictures of how quickly we can turn something around.
I bet you have some really cool before and afters.
Yeah. But but typically no more than worst case, like you're 2 months.
So worst case scenario, you come into a mountain of former projects that got dumped somewhere, and a commercial place goes, "We'd love to have this be a space for our customers to sit when they're waiting.
Right.
I need to get rid of this mound. So that mound goes, there's this huge area. Even that is only a 2 or 3 month process itself.
Yep.
That's
to go
great.
from that
I wouldn't
to
have thought that.
a usable, playable grass surface
Awesome.
that's safe for the kids, pets. Yeah.
And then when you come to maintain that at a period that makes sense for that customer, is it a day kind of treatment? Is it a quick thing? How's the maintenance going to work?
Yeah, so our maintenance plans are either 6 or 7 steps, and that's going to be like a could be like a 1 to 3 hour visit, depending on the size of the property.
Cool.
And that's going to happen 6 or 7 times throughout the growing season.
So I would imagine that there are some businesses that could really use your services. So talk to the audience, and if I am a business owner or I have a retail location or some sort of land for my business, where in their ownership process would they need to call you?
Sure. Yeah. So where we kind of specialize for commercial services, commercial property owners would be if they are in charge of, if they own the property and they're looking to beautify the turf, whether that could be in the same kind of need as the residential side. They're looking for green turf and they don't currently have that.
The
green
grass,
no weeds, things like that. So they're calling us for that need. But then the solution is obviously going to be kind of determined on the customer, what they're looking for. But we also do some hydroseeding. So if there's been any like site work done on the property or anything like that, where they need soil stabilization, we also do hydroseeding.
And that's needed when the soil is not prepared.
Correct.
Properly
so a lot of times that'll be a requirement, as part of any site work or something that happens on a commercial site where they're going to have to either straw or hydroseed stabilize. So we do some commercial work as far as that as well. Even things like we did a project this past year on an EPG, like a 13-acre lot where they needed good grass to get a final approval on the demolition of this building that was there. So they called us to essentially do like an overseeding aeration type process. We put compost down, all kinds of stuff. But that was, yeah. So can really do a lot of different things, but basically it's, anything from just basic seeding is that's needed when any kind of like site work's done for a development or something like that.
And I've seen that when you pull up to a commercial location for whatever it might be, and it's unsightly.
Sure.
It's not like I'm not going to buy from the business,
right.
But on the other side, if I'm pulling up to a beautiful location, it does kind of set that mood. What about property managers too? Because you've got people who own the land, and their business might be on that land. But what about landlords who own large properties but lease it out to other businesses? Are those potential customers for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for the maintenance plan. Somewhere where they're looking for, hey, we want this grass needs to, throughout the growing season, the grass needs to be green, vigorous, weed free. So that, that's a perfect client for our maintenance program.
Okay. So we kind of figured out the client thing. So what about other businesses that would be not necessarily clients, but referral sources for you? What kind of other businesses do you really pair well with to be able to help each other out?
Yeah. So I think there is some crossover probably here because of like realtors, developers, things like that probably are a lot in your network. Especially if they have a client, like I'll give you an example of, a developer that was working with another landscaper, but they had some clients that wanted something kind of above and beyond their basic package, where they wanted this higher end turf. They had this $2-3 million home, but some of the clients were wanting a little bit better than they were getting on their yard install, and not just some straw thrown out there kind of on the dirt for some grass. So that was an opportunity where I was able to come in and actually kind of do a renovation project on a couple yards there, where they had these beautiful yards, just not good grass, or beautiful homes, nice landscaping, just not good grass.
What about nurseries? Are nurseries good partners for you? Because if they go out to a site to install, like Crows, for example, came out and said, hey, we're going to come out and look at your property. Here's some cool ideas. We drew up a landscaping. And they actually said to me at that point, some of these plants we're going to have to be careful with because your soil is not really that good at post-construction, because we built back in 13. He said we're going to kind of have to go as we see it. So I wonder if those would be good partners for you too, in case they come into an area where they've got this great plan, see the site, and are like, you can't grow these plants. This
Yes.
is just a bunch of clay mold in your ground.
Yeah, so that is a lot of what I do as well. And a lot of this, you mentioned it before about a soil sample, and that's really where. So all of our maintenance plans start with soil. They include a soil sample. We give that to the customer.
Awesome.
But that's the baseline because we have to have, especially having the soil pH rate. But also that tells us things like, without getting too technical, like I look at things like the CEC content, which is essentially like how much organic matters in the soils.
Okay.
So essentially, it's a kind of tells you just how it's just a quality meter of soil. And it's interesting to see, like when I go into Bel Air and take a soil sample at a house that was built in the '60s, where they left all the topsoil there, and it's there might be like 5.5%, but anything there's so yes, anything new construction post 2008 probably they seem to limit the amount of topsoil that's left.
Oh wow.
So that is a big problem. Is in some cases it's pretty bad.
And in Hartford County, there's been a lot of development in the last 20 years. So that's probably a high percentage of the areas. Okay, well, this is cool. So I didn't even know that this industry, Alan, existed.
Yeah.
Just naivety. I just didn't know.
No, sure.
I was ignorant to the whole idea. I would have paired you with a landscaper.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm glad you're getting a chance to come in here and kind of separate that. So I think the audience might learn from just dividing up as a residential or commercial owner where a landscaping company would be able to service them properly, and then where MADBAR is going to come in and do something different. You might want to divide that line.
Yeah,
for
sure.
us.
And I think that's important. So really, no matter in what case, someone's calling us because they want better grass than they currently have.
Okay.
So that's residential, commercial, sports field. They need better grass than they have.
Okay.
So their level of expectation is going to be different customer to customer. But typically, if it's a standard residential landscaper is going to do a great job with taking care of their trees and shrubs or if that's installation or putting in their hardscaping patio or something like that. But their expertise is not in grass, not in the turf management side, which is where we focus.
Okay.
So it's really going to be
Perfect.
client driven and user driven as far as the need or desire for higher end, better, more beautiful grass. If that answers that a little bit.
Oh, it totally does. So for the audience, it sounds like any separate species that you want to have in trees, bushes, plants, mulch, cutting the grass, that's kind of a landscaping niche. You're about what's underneath. Yeah. Almost like helping build that foundation.
Correct.
To get to that point.
Right. And and that could be anything like from like you're saying, getting the soil structure correct, getting the pH correct, feeding the grass, fertilizing it correctly. But it could be also that you just don't have that you actually need grass.
Yeah.
As all you have is weeds or it's just been neglected or there's a lot of yards around here that have like undesirable grass species, Bermuda grass, things like that. So that's another case where
crabgrass. Yeah.
But that could be a case where the other thing too that I've done some work with is guys that flip houses. So so and that's turned into all kinds of other driveway projects and things like that, and tearing down that I can do with the equipment that I have, but it's not really where we specialize. But again, they're calling me because hey, we've done all this stuff. This yard's a mess. We've got this nice house now, but it doesn't have grass.
Yeah, they had to pull a septic. They had to go underneath. They had to redo the driveway. They had They had to demo the landscape, and what's left, they're not going to re-landscape because that can be a little costly depending on what they want to do. But they do want to give that new canvas to the next owner. Yeah. That's a great point. And I get a lot of that in my business. So any realtors or property managers or real estate investors, this is someone you might want to talk to, because when you have that major outside, which we call in my business curb appeal, it's that visual, like, what's this going to look like? That's a connection you could have to them. And that might be a little interesting way to kind of get in and have some more customers for you. Because I love that, man. Yeah. Well, I've learned so much about your business. I know a lot about you, obviously, but I have this nerdy question that I ask everybody. 1057 The Fan asks about, like, do you do shower gel or a soap, or one of those boxes or briefs? But, my cool thing is total nerd, 3 boys in the house. Even my daughter's kind of a little, closet nerd. A lot of the Marvel movies, the comic book stuff. All these characters have some kind of superpower. And in the context of that, not everybody has discovered their power yet. Some of the movies are about, like them discovering their superpower, the origin story. So if you haven't figured it out yet, it's all good. But, we're late 30s, 40s at this point. Have you figured out what your superpower is yet, man?
I don't know if I really have a superpower. I swear with certain people in certain conversations, like I notice this with my daughter all the time, like her and I have like the telepathy thing going on. Like I can sense what she's getting ready to say. I don't know. It's not really a superpower, but I feel like I have that in some conversations.
If I'm writing down a superpower, telepathy is pretty badass. So
yeah.
If it's only with your daughter, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to market your telepathy, but
no.
So she'll like finish sentences and you guys will share thoughts sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. Well, your superpower is definitely a good dad. I know you're a good dad. And
Thanks.
I can say that because your kids are good. So, and I've seen a lot of the other end of the spectrum. So,
yeah.
I really appreciate you coming here today, man. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience about MADBAR Outdoors before we leave?
No, just I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. It's been
Awesome.
fun, and I guess if you have any need for trying to get your grass looking better in whatever shape, form, or fashion that is, if that's installing a new yard or getting on one of our maintenance plans, give us a call. We can help you out.
So I'm going to put all your contact information, website, handles, social medias. It'll all be in the video. The one thing I keep coming back to is that when he describes turf management, it is not sport field synthetic turf. It is any live grass surface in your property that you want to have redeveloped and maintained.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, appreciate it, Alan. Guys, I hope you had some fun today. Alan's family is wonderful. They're in the community, and they'd love to talk to you about what... I didn't even ask that. So Forest Hill. It's literally in the heart of the county. So please look his information up. If you kind of catch Alan's vibe, you realize, wow, I need some of that. And I didn't even know I could do that. It's not a landscaper. It's this whole industry that I didn't even know about. So thank you guys for watching. I tell everybody once you've been here, you've been connected to the web with two B's. Totally cheesy. I'm going to rock it all the time. So thanks, man. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. I'll be releasing Alan in a couple weeks. You'll see him. And I look forward to meeting you guys in the next episode.
Right in the right time for spring. Too.
Yeah, it's coming. We're recording this late February of 25. So call Alan now and get your project started. Sounds 1 to 2 months, depending on what you need. Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.